Next item is a discussion of school resource officers that we discussed at the previous meeting. Like we got Laura, Superintendent, and Scott, and Robbie, and I don't know. Okay, good deal. Okay. Does anybody have any questions for them, or?
Did y'all come up with any funding resources other than a grant, or where does it stand on y'all's end?
Jimmy's here as well. We have the grant, which would be, the partnership. One of the things that we talked about how important it was that this person actually be a law enforcement officer that wears a badge and has that. So it would be similar to what we have with the city. I know that this is brand new. It was probably the city had been doing it for years, so that's something that was similar for them. We talked about maybe doing it for a year and just trying that out, but it may be something that the court would like to try for 6 months and try that out and see how that works. We could come back, after, December and see how well it's working. Whether that would be looking at, is it successful, or the financial cost as well, because I know that that's something that you all discussed last time.
And I'm speaking with Jimmy too, I didn't mean to interrupt you,
No,
but
you're fine.
I know there's going to be other costs involved. We've got to have a vehicle, training, uniforms, and I know that stuff Jimmy doesn't have in his budget as well that we've got to kind of look at. And one thing that I was unclear of last time, we talked about the extra tax dollars like Maker's Mark was generating, and you all said that had to be used for
Technology.
VOTEC.
Well, I did not say that. Actually, I was under the impression that had been mentioned.
That was the in lieu agreement. It had to be used
Had
for
to be
technical.
used for-
That's the in lieu on the existing building on the bypass is what
Right.
that is.
Yeah. So,
Okay. Which I know that money's not completely out,
Say that's the in lieu on the existing building on the bypass.
Correct. And the other in lieu, I wasn't here. I don't know what was it earmarked
I don't
for?
think it was specified.
I'm trying to remember. Do you
Lisa,
remember, Lisa?
what?
I can't remember specifically. I know that the new agreement, you're correct, is in lieu of
Technical
technical training. And obviously, I think the reason that was done, of course, is because this is being generated through industry and so forth, so we know that we need improvements and assistance in our educational process with our training for our VOTEC center. Of course, I know the Career Center's working with that as well, so that's why that was earmarked in that manner, which outside looking in, I think that's a tremendous thought and a tremendous idea, so that should help out a bunch of youth. But Judge, I apologize, I cannot remember.
I don't remember as well.
I cannot remember what that was for.
And Mr. Bishop, that's a good comp. Obviously, we want to make sure that if that's what the court has asked us to do, that we use that money the way you all have asked us to do that.
My recollection, I don't think that first warehouse abatement was actually targeted to a specific place, just that it went to the school board.
Well, obviously, it did go, because when we negotiated that contract,
Yeah.
that agreement, if you remember, because former county attorney Joe Mattingly pretty much spearheaded that, and
Yeah.
that's correct. We wanted to ensure that the Board of Education got its due.
Got its due.
And you could be correct. I don't know if we
I don't
actually.
recall a specific target on the money, but
I don't
I'm
think
not
it
gonna say it
was.
wasn't there.
I don't think it was either, actually, but the second one is correct. That was directed toward VOTEC training, or education.
The three schools that the school resource officer would serve would be Calvary Elementary, Marion County Middle School, and West Marion. And so that's about 1,200 students, about 100 staff that we're looking at. And we do have 2 school resource officers that will serve the schools that are in the city limits.
Well,
There was a question asked me, I'm just repeating what a few people asked me about it. You got one resource officer for 3 schools. It'd be so much part of the day or rotate from day to day, or how would you do that?
Well, we would work with the school principal based on the need. Here at, on this campus, they're primarily housed at one building, but they rotate as needed to the other buildings. I mean, we can make that what the sheriff would like, or the principals. We're going to sit down with them and make sure that that's going to work well. They may start their day at West Marion. The next day they may start their day at Calvary. Obviously, we would want to rotate that so folks know that that school resource officer serves all 3 buildings. And we also want that person to get to know the kids and the staff as well. So that relationship, this school resource officer will be serving children ages 4 to 12. While at the school resource officers in the city limits, it had primarily been just those secondary students that was 9 through 12th grade. So, today we had the training that was part of the list that we passed out. We had all of our front office staff. The Kentucky Center for School Safety was here. We had the sheriff deputies and the city, the chief of police and Greg Young as well. That's a part of that. So we're really, just putting a lot of emphasis on making sure kids are safe. And as far as where the officer would be, we're going to work with the sheriff to make sure that, he's a big part of what he believes is best for the schools as well.
I apologize. I come in on into the last meeting. I had a doctor's appointment and needed to go to the doctor's appointment. What was the amount of money that you actually asked for at that meeting?
We said if it was similar to what we did with the city, it would be about $17,000.
So it'd be 17 plus whatever cost we would incur.
Right, and that would depend on if it was the school year, the number of days that just the students attend school. And I think the sheriff, and he can correct me if I'm wrong, but it would also depend on, that person, are they going to work 5 days a week, every day we have school? Are they going to work 3 days a week? Are they going to work 5 days? It would just depend on that person and what they could do. Mr. Lockwood, who is the principal at Marion County Middle School, he just even said, if they could even be there on Mondays and Fridays, especially, those are days typically that kids are going home for the weekend, or maybe something's happened on the weekend. I'm sure Lisa can say a lot of times when kids, that weekend is pretty significant in some kids' lives. They bring some things back with them. So that was the amount that we work with on the city. So I would assume that would be about the same. The school resource officer for the city, they work all the ball games, and they also take care of the days that we are in school. So if there's a snow day, you're not paying that school resource officer. They are retired, so it's not about benefits or insurance or retirement. It's a little bit different than hiring that person right off the street.
We got to be careful on that, because ours works. If they work more than 20 hours a week, they're not part-time. It falls into a different category, and you have to pay a lot of those benefits. So I think, is it 20 the max, or what?
Actually, it's
100 hours a month.
Yeah, 100 hours.
Yeah.
So
If we figure out, together a way to do this partnership, we will figure out a way that they work 99 hours.
Yeah, well, I'm just saying, you couldn't switch around and say we're off all summer and use those days. It don't matter if they're off all, so much a month is all they're allowed to do, and without getting into big conflict there.
Schlosser, I appreciate your guys' time. I think the fact is that even though you came to the last meeting, unfortunately, the fact is I don't think we have the information. We don't really know what the cost is, or I don't. Maybe.
No, that's a question I want to ask.
Well, I think we need to get with Jimmy, or we need to find out from the sheriff in regards, are we going to provide a vehicle? Are we going to provide the uniform? Is that individual we have to budget for benefits just in case they do qualify for benefits? depending on whom the individual is. So I think we need to know those actual costs, number one, okay? So I think that, and then along with that, we do currently give, as we know, $10,000 to the high school or to the Board of Education. We could possibly look at maybe utilizing those funds toward that, but anyway, I think there's opportunity there, but I think before we, and y'all tell me if you're wrong, but before we can say yay or nay, I think the fact is we need some hard numbers.
I have to ask Lisa a question on this. You know, if we hire somebody even part-time, and I don't understand what's gonna work with the city, because I guess they're using full-time officers to come out there sometime.
Now, part-time.
They're retired.
Okay, I didn't know.
That's what, they requested 17,000, because that's what I think last year is what the city of Lebanon, that's what an officer cost you, is that correct? That's where they're getting their number.
So that 17,000, does that include the cruiser? Does that include the gas, the uniform?
They send us a bill for half of the total cost, and we reimburse them the total cost about this time of year.
And you know that 17,000 includes that cruiser?
It's everything inclusive. We make one payment a year, and we've offered to do 6 months, and however they want to employ it, but they actually ask for end of the year, fiscal year reimbursement.
I had one question to ask Lisa,
Thank you,
I guess. If we were to utilize officers in the city and the county pay for it, there's always a liable issue on any of these things, part-time or full-time or however time. Where would that liability go to? The city and the county?
It's gonna go to everybody.
Everybody's city and the county?
Yeah, it's our employee, and then, I mean, it's on their premises, so I don't think it could be an issue for both.
Yeah, bottom line,
Yeah.
you know how those lawyers are. They're gonna go after
Oh,
everybody.
they're all bums. Yeah, they're all bums.
Yeah, I don't know about all of it.
Sorry, Ted.
One of our inventory questions is how many SROs are on staff, so it just falls on our liability insurance, because they're on our property acting on our behalf, so you're right.
One thing I will say, no matter how it works out, you'd almost have to set it up on a yearly, it might be hard to get somebody 6 months anyway, so ever how we go with it, it needs to be a year.
I agree with you. I believe it needs to be for a full school year.
And that's how we operate with the city as well. And when we went to ask them for the expansion of the program, they said, of course, this is just going to be on a year-to-year basis. So, you know, things change, budgets change, we understand that. We feel very fortunate that we did receive the grant, you know, that we could even come to you and say, you know, we have this, hopefully this partnership that we can have for our students in the county. Like I said earlier, you know, we just want to make sure that we provide access to opportunities for the kids that are outside the city limits, just like the students that are inside the city limits.
Sheriff Clements, do you have, I mean, that's the other question I've got. Do you have anyone identified for this, or what's your time? I guess what I'm saying is that if we were to work something out, what is your time frame, or what's your thought process?
Well,
I didn't know if Deputy Gardner was going to go out there or what, so, you know.
Well, that's a cheap answer.
I have discussed this with an individual, and nothing's concrete, of course, until the funding's there. I will say this, I have reached out to other sheriff's offices to see what they do and how they've done things. And I haven't had the opportunity to speak with Ms. Squasher or everybody here yet, but I do see where some boards fully fund this. I've seen some that apparently struggle to fund it, so you've got both ends of the rainbow when it comes to something like that. And as Ms. Squasher can tell you, this is a hot issue now, we all well know with the shooting down in Marshall County last year, so I believe it's a good thing. I've been doing my part to try to identify that person that we may bring in, but again, it all comes down to the funding.
Let me ask you a question, Ms. Schlosser. It might be a tough question, sorry. But, I mean, I guess if for some reason if the county couldn't come up with the funding or because obviously it's not our budget, we have to amend it. But for whatever reason, have you spoke to your board members? Are they willing, if they committed to, hey, we're going to get this no matter what? I mean, is it $17,000 to you all too, I guess I'm asking?
Yes, it is.
So-
we are, the board is, this is something that we're committed to as a partnership. And for me to say that we're going to do something different with the physical court that I'm doing with the city council, I mean, I'm going to have to go back to the board and have that conversation if it would be anything different than just a matching partnership. And you can understand that
absolutely.
because, those folks committed and they would want to say, why are you doing something different for the physical court than you're doing for, the city council?
Understand.
But our board is, committed to this and.
But the money you've got already is from a grant, right?
Yes.
You didn't take it out of your budget.
Well, we just elected to write the grant that way.
But that's what I meant.
I'm going to be honest, if we didn't have the grant, I would be asking the board to take that out of general fund.
Well, that's what I was asking, if
We would.
basically the grant's funding y'all's half of the thing.
Right, and that's just for a short period of time as well, and.
Is it like a yearly grant, or, renew every?
It's
2 years.
It's a 2-year grant in this case.
Yeah.
And, we go through the budget cycle like you all, and, if we're fortunate enough to have this, and we did not get the grant 3 years down the road, I would ask the board to pull this out of general fund for the fiscal court as well as the resource officers in the city, because I really believe that the presence, it's not a complete fix. Like they said today with the Center for School Safety, I don't think there's anything that's a complete fix. However, this is a great part of making schools safe. So I would recommend that we do pull this from general fund if we can continue this partnership.
I think everybody here on this court and on the school board and all the people there want schools safer and everybody, and we want children to be more familiar with officers, and all the things they're saying are all good. We just got to decide. I don't know where I am on it, to be honest with you. I've been here 15 years, and I guess you have, and you have also, Jackie has too. It's rare the school board has ever asked us for anything of this nature, and you are a self-taxing district. We'd have to look at it, okay? I'm not saying yes, not saying no, so I just need to look a little more, and we'll try to get back as soon as we can.
Yeah, because the other thing and another issue that we're dealing with as well is that, obviously we all want safe schools, but we also want safe communities. And as we know, unfortunately, in Marion County, we have, it's just, as every county, we have break-ins, we have a meth issue, we have an issue out here that, so the other side of that is that if we're going to fund law enforcement, do we fund a resource officer for the schools, or do we fund another officer for the sheriff's department to focus on break-ins, thefts, drugs, so forth? So those are the things we have to balance out. Or can we do both? I mean, so that's where we're at, okay? So that's what we've got to do with our money, with the county taxpayers' money.
Well, and what I was hoping is that by having a school resource officer, that would actually free up some of the sheriff's departments so that they would be able to stay out of the county, so that when we do need them, and the sheriff's office is fantastic about supporting us, but when we have an event, they're pulled out of the county and they're in our schools. So we were hoping that would help. And if we could find the correct person, that's retired, that would definitely be at a discounted rate versus hiring a full-time person. So we were just hoping that this would be an opportunity to, have the best of both worlds. Keeping those folks out in the communities and, for something that would be obviously a better price than hiring that full-time person with those benefits and things.
Well, listen, thanks for your time. We'll try to get all the numbers together, and we'll try to get back ASAP, okay?
We need to get with the sheriff too.
One thing, this thing sounds to me like it could be a year-to-year thing. And if we're doing something part-time, finding that right individual. And Ray can tell you that again, we struggle sometimes finding court security officers. In fact, this week is unfortunate, I'm going to lose a full-time deputy sheriff to another agency. But finding those right individuals part-time, a lot of times is extremely difficult. So that's why I did a little bit of research and checking with other sheriff's offices, and some of them, they have that school resource as a full-time law enforcement officer. That way they can use them in the off-season, if you will, during the summer months to cover for vacations for the other deputies or pick up the extra workload that's out there during the summer months. So, again, I don't know what the court's feelings are. I don't know what Ms. Schlosser's feelings are. I know we all think it's a good idea, and it is a good idea, but I'm inclined to believe that if we could do something in a full-time position, it may be better where we have some consistency across the board between those three schools, and where they may be able to help out at the other schools in case of an emergency as well. So, again, training is very key in a lot of things that we do, and then you get, which Ray and I both get a little old, but our reactions are maybe not as quickly as somebody a little younger, and you get somebody that's a little older, they might not be able to handle the job quite as well as somebody,
You mean someone like Magistrate Masterson?
Boy, you talking to me?
Yeah, I think we were all thinking that.
But really, I mean, that all jokes aside, having somebody that can actually handle a situation, whether it be a 4-year-old or a 16-year-old.
Yeah, sounds good.
I was going to ask you later about that. It may be a case where a full-time person with so many hours dedicated for that, and then the off time, like I said, you could use them to cover when people's off and take up the slack and
Maybe eliminate a little overtime.
Had shown me that the boards picked up while they were working from the board. The sheriff picks up the balance when he's working for him directly. You see what I'm saying?
yeah.
Now, I'm starting to like that a little bit. You guys, what do you got? Yeah, that's what I'm saying, yeah, exactly.
Well, I like it too, but I guess my question would be to the board. You say you got a 2-year grant. If we went that route, are you guys willing, I know you can't without talking to the board, to make a commitment every year to put this money in, I'll take it out of your general fund, pay for this officer every year?
Well, it's just like us, I mean,
Yeah.
you can't commit, yes, but
You don't,
you can't commit to it because it's on an annual basis. I mean, yeah, it's obviously it's a priority.
That would be.
I'm asking, are you committed? And that's for the board to commit.
I'm committed.
that-
I would, that would be
Suggest.
my passion, and that would be my suggestion.
Yeah.
If children
There
and
you go.
staff are not safe, then teaching and learning is not going to take place. So absolutely, that is first.
All right, that answers my question. Thank you.
Appreciate it.
I think we're moving in the right direction. We just
got
get
some
a few
questions.
things
to
clarified. And
get clarified. And
I know the teachers want to carry a gun. I know that.
Sheriff Clements, I might, if you get a chance, if you guys can get together and kind of, if yourself and the judge get together, and I guess with Ms. Schlosser as well, but from the county perspective, you guys get together and put your heads together and work something out that we could.
Let's get a real number.
Right, there you go, that's what I'm saying, something we can actually bug
Because if
into.
we're going to have a cruiser and uniform and all that anyway, then
Yeah.
we're going to be losing that,
Right.
Yeah, let's just get a real number and then we'll go from there.
Okay.
All right, sounds good, thank you.
Thank you, guys.
thank you all.
Thanks, Rob.
Appreciate it.
Thanks, Scott.